signed out.
Like on your board docs.
Mhm.
We are live.
Thank you, Mrs. DeGraw. So go ahead and call our meeting to order. We want to welcome all of you for coming today. Thank you for being here. And Mrs. Rigby will lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mrs. Rigby. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Madam Chair,
Is there a second?
Madam Chair, I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the minutes from our previous meeting.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Mr. Williams, your report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We'll get started with this, and if you can see right here, I snapped this picture here from Idaho Ed News, and if you look really close, we have like a little "Where's Willie? Where's Waldo?"
Right.
He's-
Right
Yes.
in the corner.
Yeah, that was a picture out there. So ISBA conference, I just wanted to thank Mr. Schmidt for his time. He and his wife were able to go up and represent the school district. Or Mr. Schmidt does sit on the ISBA regional board as vice
Yeah,
president.
Executive board.
And so, Mr. Schmidt, do you have anything you want to talk about with the ISBA conference?
Yes, I would like to spend a few minutes visiting with all of us. We went up there Tuesday morning and it was, the roads were good, so we made it up fine. And the first meeting I went to was one with the ESSER funds. The ESSER funds is the COVID money that the schools received from the government. So there was a couple ladies from Boise that presented the meeting. And the bottom line on what I took away from the meeting was that the ESSER fund, they're real lenient on what the schools can spend the money on. Really lenient. They want the schools to get the benefit from the funds, and there's not many restrictions on what it can be spent on. And then I went to another meeting, CTE, Careers Technical Education. And what I brought away from that meeting is people that want to become a CTE teacher in the schools, there's different routes that they can take to become certified where they can become the teacher. And I have a handout here that I'll give to Mr. Williams so he can look through. And the reason why I went to that meeting is because our ag teacher next year is going to retire. So we're going to have a new ag teacher next year. So we'll have to explore how we're going to bring in a new teacher. And then the next meeting I went to was for the lottery. There's a lot of money available.
That sounds exciting.
There's a lot of money available coming in the lottery. So they have a program called Lottery Bucks for Books. And so that'll come in next year, and the librarian of the school can apply for it. And she will he or she will have to give a little essay. And then there's a chance that they'll get between $1,000 to $3,000 for new acquisition of books. So that's a good program. And then starting in January of next year, they have a program called Scratch for Schools. So everybody should apply for that, each school, so they have a chance to come. And they have regional Scratch areas around the state and certain dates that the schools can come to, and their personnel can scratch the tickets, and they can win between usually $1,000 to $3,000. So that's a good program. And then they have another program called Classroom Wish List. So teachers can apply for improvements for a classroom, and that's a good program to help improve the classroom with lottery money. Okay, and then finally, the resolutions. There was 14 resolutions. They all passed unanimously. The last one was to change from ADA, average daily attendance, to enrollment. And that passed unanimously. All the schools want that. They want to be classified to be able to have enrollment instead of the ADA. So besides that, it was the 80th anniversary of the ISBA, and it was record enrollment there. There was over 500 people. And in the Region 6 meeting, Brian Piper from Madison was the chairman, and I was the vice chair. He is applied to go to the vice president-elect, and so that moves me from vice chair to chair of Region 6. And then a gal from Rigby, her name is Leanne Pohl, will move up into the vice chairmanship. So,
Okay, is it congratulations then, or?
well, it's a big step up. I hope I'm ready for it. So.
No, you'll do great. Well, thank you so much for that report.
That's my report.
And the resolutions 1 and 14 were the ones that I put up here to highlight that I think are gonna make a real big difference. Hopefully they do pass, hopefully
Mhm.
when this moves into
Should
legislation.
I say
Oh,
one
go
more
ahead.
thing? I forgot, we have a new Idaho school superintendent. Her name is Debbie Critchfield. She replaces Sherry Ybarra. And she is really pro-education, and we was able to visit with her. And one thing that I asked her if she could work on is to try to get the 68 supermajority down to 60%. So the school districts can have an easier time to try to pass bonds and levies to improve their schools. And so I think she's gonna be a really good advocate for the schools in this state.
I like that suggestion if we could. You can change the constitutional amendment with 51% in Idaho. I don't know why.
And then we have to have a supermajority to try to improve your buildings or have a.
No, well, thank you.
Facility.
Classified staff funding and enrollment-based funding, those are two areas that really could benefit us. So thank you, Mr. Schmidt, for doing that. Thank you for going up there. I'm gonna keep moving on, just give a little update on the different departments. In our technology department, we are probably 99% complete with our audio enhancement PA system and the safety upgrades in the schools. I see both of my administrators here. Bell schedules are now put onto that. And so you can see in this picture right here. This is one of the consoles that we have in each of the offices. You can see it does have the microphone, but this is the system where in the past, when we were to send a message over the PA, you'd pick up the telephone and then you punch in a code and it would go. This one here, you go to this system and you touch the play. So if you wanted to send it to a certain classroom, you click on it. It's a touch screen. It's really awesome. And so each of the classrooms do have the microphone systems for students if they have class discussions, and one that the teacher wears around. Also on this, our elementary had a training on this last professional day. And went through on how to utilize this in the classroom. It does also have a safety mechanism that if the teacher presses the side for 3 seconds, a message is sent over to this console into the office and it sends an emergency call. Additionally, administration, when we do get it all set up, I said it's 99% set up, but administration should also receive a text message or an email immediately if a teacher sends that out. So that was one of the things when we talk about safety, how do we get communication throughout the school? How do we communicate to the office? And then a portion of this, and I do have this from Miss Allen's classroom in the Zen corner. You see there, the amplifiers, the part that's up at the top. And there are different lights on there. You can't see it on this one. But when the microphone system's working, there's a green color on. If the teacher were to press the emergency distress button, or there's an actual distress button where students could press that if a teacher were to have a medical emergency or something, they can go in there and hit that emergency button. That this console lights up, it turns red, it's a silent one. It goes into the office, then the office acknowledges that they know that there's emergency and it sends back a different color. And so teachers, if they do have an emergency in the classroom, whether it's a medical emergency, whatever it is, they can hit the distress signal. This system is set up that the teacher can then see that, yes, the office has received it and help is on the way. So it's a part of the system that I really think is gonna be, give us peace of mind, not only for allowing us to be able to fine tune our bell schedules where we're sharing our secondary schools between the junior high hall and the high school and moving all over. Our secretaries have the option to be able to be more fine tuned with where their messages go out. I know that was one of the main things that came up in the elementary meeting. One of the teachers that teaches in the elementary hall says, do we have to hear all the junior high announcements? And with this system, they don't. The hallways will have them, but the classrooms will not. And so it's just, the secretaries and administration will be able to make adjustments as needed in the office. It just really increases our ability to run the schools without as much, the disruptions that we've had. Other things with this is we can make an announcement here that goes to the entire campus, both on Territon and Hamer. And so the other day, Mr. Johnson was practicing with this, and he started to talk to the teachers in Hamer from his office here in Territon. And administration also has the ability to have it on their computer. So I pulled it up on my computer and I was able to contact teachers if I needed to pull this up right here. I can just use my computer laptop to communicate in there. It goes into, and I can talk to a classroom. And so it's a really cool thing, but it does, I laugh because it's the name of the company is Audio Enhancement. It does really enhance our ability to have different options, not only for classroom instruction, where the teachers can wear the microphones around their lanyard, to be able to have that where their voices aren't always stressed. It does allow the students to be able to hear instruction better. And I know this is going to shock everybody. When students can hear the instruction, their academic improvement actually increases. I know, shocker with that. And so super excited about that.
So are these all in?
They are, like I said, 99%. The classrooms all have them. We have a couple of places after we went through that we recognized that we didn't have the zone set up correctly. So in the basement of the 38 building where we do hold an art class for 5th and 6th grade, that one we've already reached out to them. They're going to bring in some more speakers and do that. A couple of the offices didn't have access to it. But when we ran our safety drill early in the year before they came out, we recognized that restrooms weren't hearing announcements. And so if students were in restrooms and we had a lockdown, they wouldn't know. And now that the restrooms do have those speakers going into it. So we looked at this to really make sure that how can we improve the ability for teachers to instruct their students, but also at the same time have a safety system in place that increases the ability to get notices out in the event of an emergency or an evacuation or anything like that. And I think that's where the research does shows if you have that communication. So there's lots of things we still need to learn on it. Like I said, it's just barely in. The things we need to learn is how can we fine tune some of these announcements? How can we fine tune our safety drills? But most part, the teachers that are using the mic or choosing to use the microphones really like them. I don't know, Mr. Johnson, I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there any other thing that I might have missed from your?
No, we appreciate it. I know even with the outside intercoms, they've been working so well. We're able to call students in right away when we need to come in, which has been really helpful. So,
Which the previous system had some holes in it, and this one is great. So super excited. That's something that we did have on our bond, but we were able to use ESSER money to be able to cover for that. And so that's
Amazing.
yeah. So we're putting, like Mr. Smith said, with the ESSER money, especially with the feedback from this board, we're really trying to utilize something that say, how can we make a huge impact that won't just help us now, but in the future.
The ESSER money really helped the school district.
Yep. And this is one of them that we definitely. Update on maintenance. They did have the first snow of the year last week. They do such a great job. They're here early in the morning, pushing the snow off. It's just, I can't say enough about their efforts. Boilers are up and going. It's a lot of work with those. And so just appreciate all that they're doing. Food service. I want to highlight some of the menu items. Mrs. Ward is super excited about the Taco Tuesday. They did some street tacos. And she said that had actually more high school kids come that day. They
Wow.
advertised it a little bit better and did that, had some of the, she was able to change some of the menu items partially because of the training that she's given to her staff. And so the trainings that they took them during the summer, she's invested a lot in that. And so I actually personally didn't go try the street tacos. I should have, but like street tacos, it's just actually real meat that you
Real meat.
that you put in.
Oh, kidding.
Yeah. I joke about that. It's not the process. They had they wanted to make it more authentic. Like, so if you were going to go to a street taco vendor, that it would it would replicate that more. And so
Mhm.
when I say real meat, the processed meat. So but again, another thing is free and reduced lunch applications are a concern for her. There's needing to get the word out. She's trying to contact everybody she can with those. Where the last 2 years, because of COVID and the waivers that have been given, most people aren't in the habit of filling out those free and reduced applications. And so this year we have moved back to that.
We've told people.
Yes, we've advertised it. We put on our Facebook. Her lunch department is making phone calls and everything out there, doing all they can. Transportation department, we do have a surplus items that we did bring to the board before with the buses, and so we are getting those posted. This is just a picture of what Julie put out on our Facebook page. We also will have that in the newspaper going into the Jefferson Star. So hopefully we get a lot of people interested in our surplus buses or wanting to go out there and build an RV. I really want my parade wagon. I know I've talked with Mr. Pincock about that. Just take the top off and we can have that in the parade every single year. But we'll have to wait, I think, on that one.
Really?
I do. Doesn't that sound like fun? I know that you and Willie don't have to ride in that car every single year. You can come on the parade wagon.
I think Netra enjoys riding in my car.
We can soup the bus up, race you. I don't know. We did have our spot inspection. We will have a report next meeting on that, more details on that, but we're not gonna focus on all the details of the spot inspection. But appreciate Mr. Pincock and all that he does, keeping the buses going, and we'll have more on our action items with our transportation department. A couple things with all schools, tutoring day, just an update. The first 2 tutoring days I felt went really well. Some of the things that we improved on from the first one to the second one is communicating better with our lunch department. We do have the breakfast snacks that are there. The kids that are coming are getting a lot done. They're staying caught up. We do have our professional development in the afternoon after those tutoring days. A lot of really good things happening at those professional developments. It's organized. I really appreciate Mr. Davis and Mr. Johnson taking the lead with that, with their respective staff. And so really appreciate them. And the first trimester is November 22nd. So we're almost to Christmas. It's getting close, isn't it? Elementary schools, our Hamer and Territon Public Libraries had an Idaho Family Reading Week. I appreciate all the effort from our librarians, both in Hamer and in Territon. There was a book fair here at the Territon PTO. We had our Veterans Day program. Not sure how many of you were able to attend that. I know I had a couple of you that were there. We held that in the Legacy Gym, and so many positive comments for both the facility, but then also the program. Mrs. Dowling, who teaches our music in our elementary, does a fabulous job, and kids sang really well. The acoustics in that gym were able to just be projected, and we also had a couple of awards that the VFW, Lester Reese, and helps organize the Voice of Democracy. Ethne Schaefer was our first place winner of that. Jordan Torgerson second place, and Brinley Bradley Polson. Brinley, I spelled that one wrong. Brinley Polson, Patriot Penn, Brewer Burtonshaw, and Isaac Hall. for the junior high, and teacher of the year was Mr. Mackey. Mr. Johnson did a very great honor to when you read that. And that make you nervous, Mr. Johnson? Yes, very nervous. Did a great job with that. And can't think of all of our teachers of the year are recipients will have earned that honor, and Mr. Mackey is one of those. He's does so much for our school. Like the write-up that Mr. Johnson had for him, like, was perfect.
How did we choose?
It is it's one where they reach out to administration. Administration has a group of people that look at it, and then they send that back to the VFW, and then they ultimately choose who it is.
You chose it. Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so it's
Could I just make a comment?
sure.
I heard that I wasn't able to go, but I heard that program that Mrs. Dowling just has those kids just eating out of her hand, and they were singing their little hearts out. And she said I talked with her, and she said she had some experiences where kids said, I had this feeling in my heart. And she explained to them that that's patriotism, and it's love for country, and it's and it's appreciation. And I think with the wall of veterans, the kids actually made the connection between their own people that have been veterans and Veterans Day and what it's all about. And I think it was a absolutely A1 program.
It really was, and it just gave you chills to
Yes.
hear. It made you really proud of our country and honoring the veterans for their service, and other things on the wall is she incorporated civil servants, firemen, police officers,
Yes.
those that have served in the legislature, and honored them on the wall as well, which I think it's awesome. And I heard so many positive things from there. We can't ever have an event without somebody saying something, but one negative comment compared to hundreds of others that were like, this is
Negative.
like having it combined with Hamer, Territon, showing the unity that we have as a district. That's the vision and direction that I want to go. I know the board has supported me in that vision, and I think this was a perfect example of that. So thank you for that comment. So move on to the secondary schools. Mrs. Parker did take her band and orchestra to an honor band orchestra activity in St. Anthony. And so the students were able to go and spend a day in a big band with professional level instructors. They learned, I think, 3 or 4 different songs and got to meet a lot of new kids. And what a neat thing for her to do. I said, make sure you sign up for this every single year. Coming from a small school where maybe our orchestra is smaller or our band is smaller, they're able to go in and experience what it's like to be in a bigger school with that. And so I know the kids were excited about that. And then just a plug, this Friday is a band and orchestra concert. It'll be 6 p.m. here at the auditorium on that. FFA, just an update. Our range team did compete at nationals. There were about, I think 25 to 30 or 30 teams, and we placed 6th in the nation on the Western Nations. So with our range team, that was Cole Richens, Ryan Rigby, Jonathan Mendoza, and Cicely Jacobs. And Jonathan was the top scorer in the grazing management test. And so when they go in, they take the different tests and they score. So he was number 1 at that Western Nationals. And so congratulations to the team, and congratulations to Jonathan, and thanks to Mr. Bird for all that he does. And then I do want to just give an update. Mrs. Dixon was able to take her students to a field trip. There's actually 2 different things. I'm going to step back. Mrs. Dixon's been able to attend a training in Boise that focused on students who transition out of high school into the workforce, secondary transition goals. And she's been able to make contacts with Voc Rehab and some of the other schools to have some ideas that we want to present on a little bit more in the future about some exciting things that we can do to offer our students to learn real life skills, work skills. And then this opportunity also came up from the connection with Madison High School and Volk Rehab put on a field trip called Reality Town. And at that field trip, the students were able to go and participate in that. Mrs. Dixon, you can come up if you want to. You can speak from there if you speak loud enough.
I'll just come up.
And so
Get out of my comfort zone here.
tell us a little bit about this. So
So like Mr. was just saying, I went to that training in Boise and I had never been able to attend that as a SPED teacher while I've been here. And so it was way eye-opening because one of the focuses that we really want to try to do for our SPED kids is to prepare them for the real world. Because they brought in a panel of students that have graduated that have been on IEPs. And so that was eye-opening to listen to those students talk about how they felt prepared to leave high school. And most of them did not feel prepared. They got the academic part, which is amazing and what they need in high school, but then to send them out in the real world, they're like, we were not ready for that. And especially if they have a disability or a struggle, they really struggled in the real world. And so that was eye-opening for me. And so as a SPED teacher, that's something I really want to focus on is helping prepare my secondary students to leave high school. So the Reality Town, we got to attend that yesterday at Madison and it was amazing. So each student, when we got there, they were given a template and then they were given a life scenario. So it told them what their job was, how much money they make, how many kids they have. And it was so fun for them to get it and talk about their jobs and to see, oh, I don't make that much money. Or they were like, I make a lot of money. And then we had to go to 24 different stations. So the stations were set up and they would get to these stations and they had to go pick a house. So in the book, it has a bunch of different houses that they could pick. And it has the rent, how much it will cost, utilities. And then they have to go to these stations and they say, okay, you owe me this much money. And then they have to come back into their checkbook and deduct their rent, their car. They had to pick out a car. They had to go to stations for childcare, for personal care, dental, insurance. And it was just so fun to listen to the students because they were like panicking. Like they're like, Joe, I'm broke. And I don't know what to do. Some of them were trying to pawn their children off. They're like, I don't want my children anymore. I'm like, they're yours. It was really fun for them to have to go through these scenarios. Some of them had to get second jobs. So they'd have to go up, they'd have to apply, they'd have to fill it out, they'd apply. The guy would ask them why they think they should get this job. And it was fun. The people that were putting it on would try to like discourage them. Well, why don't you get this really nice house? This is a beautiful house. Why are you getting this one? I mean, one of my students is like, I have to live with my parents. I'm going to live with them the rest of my life. And so it was a fun experience. We left that the kids felt good. They loved that experience. They started talking about like, oh, I need to start working right now. Some of them were talking about, I need a job this summer. And so those are the things that I, as a SPED teacher, want to try to encourage more for my students because I need to prepare them better for the real world. So I think every senior should have to go through this experience because some of them come out broke and they have no money. And so, but
I can't zoom in on this, but the one does say live in your parents' basement. It really does say that, and I don't know.
Not a bad idea.
Why should that be? That shouldn't be an option.
they're here, live with your parents.
Oh, I have a question. So is your idea then to maybe help them to get summer jobs?
Yes. Do you guys like?
Yeah, and so when I mentioned with the connection that Mrs. Dixon made at the conference with Volk Rehab, that is an option that we are exploring as a district. And so go ahead and explain.
So Volk Rehab has this program that it's been around, but not a lot of schools use the money. And at the training in Boise, Volk Rehab was like, we have money for your districts to spend. You just need to get it going. And so I was paired up with the SPED teacher from Sugar City. And last year was the first year that they had launched the work readiness program in their district. And so what it is the SPED teacher goes out and gets jobs in the community. And it can be anywhere. I mean, you could go Rocknecks, you could go a farmer, it could be babysitting, it could be here at the district doing maintenance work. And then the students would be able to have
Job
SPED
coach.
teachers, the paras, any teachers in our district can be their job coach. And so we would help prepare them for the job. And Volk Rehab is actually who would pay them. So the district or the jobs in the community don't have to pay them. Voc Rehab gives them a certain amount of hours, 100 hours or whatever. And as a, like, as the district, we would work together to set up a program, maybe either 8 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever works for the students. And then they would just have a job, they'd have to come in and clock in. They'd learn how to work hard and kind of set them up to prepare, because some of our students go and get jobs and then they get fired within the first week because they don't really know what they're supposed to be doing. And so that is something that
Yeah, it's a win-win.
is.
When Voc Rehab was able to meet with Mrs. Dixon and I, we're gonna set up a time to meet with Mrs. DeGraw to figure out how we could pull this off. But it is a win-win where Voc Rehab has the funding for this.
Is it a big hoop to jump through to get that? funding?
So the paperwork is the part they said is the hardest, and so
Oh,
it's
it is.
through Mrs. DeGraw, but then we come out and train her, and one of the questions I asked them was like, has there been issues in the district with like it falling through and then they don't get the payment? And she said that's never happened. She said Voc Rehab wants the kids to get this money, and so they are willing to come out, work with Mrs. DeGraw, get her trained on what she needs from her end, and then we can move it forward. The cool thing is we also have some students who have done the 18 to 21-year program. And so if they're in the school right now, we can start having them do jobs. So we do have a student right now that comes and works in the district office for an hour with Mrs. DeGraw and Mrs. Hall. And that's something we could start paying her while she's already at school and she's learning
Yeah.
her work skills.
Wonderful.
Yeah, it's,
And the skills that they're working on here in the office is really neat. We've got them working on figuring out how to file alphabetically, how to count money, how to, you know, it's how to
Oh.
work the mail machine. And it's been really fun to see what their abilities are.
so. Any other questions for Mrs. Dixon?
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you, Mrs. Dixon. Right. Continuing on with the high school, Panther Den floor is completed. Practices will be able to be played on it today, so that's gonna free up a little bit of the bottleneck that we've had with the gyms, and it's exciting. Winter sports, girls basketball, boys basketball and wrestling are all started. Junior high, biggest thing coming up next week is the Newsies, November 21st and 22nd, to make sure you come and get your tickets. I think they're getting close to being sold out on the shows. We are having matinee shows for the students, 9:15 and 1:30 on that Monday.
May
So-
we come to those?
You could if you need to. Yeah. You could, as a board member, of course you can. Well, and so we wanted that mostly for students, but I know in your situation, if
I
it's
don't want to drive at night.
better for you, come at that time.
Okay.
But we do encourage the community to come at the evening shows. I did not put on here that our junior high girls basketball is having a great season. The 8th grade team, I believe, will be in the championship game. It looks like that will be played at Butte County. They've had a really successful season, doing really well. 7th grade team, and Andrew, your daughter's on that one. They have a great season going as well.
Lost a game yet. They have 3 games left to play.
So super excited for them. The boys, well, the wrestling district is tomorrow. With the different tournaments that we've gone to, occasionally some of the schools have done a dual format. We did that at North Fremont and at Ryrie and here last night. And each time we've had a dual format, our West Jefferson Junior High team has defeated the other teams. So that in our conference, so they're doing really well. And then in closing for my superintendent report, junior high does have will be exiting the CSI up. This is just a plug because later on in the discussion we'll have a conversation about that. So just some exciting things going on in our junior high. Madam Chair, that's all I have. If there's any other questions, or we can move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Williams. Mrs. DeGraw, did we have any public comment forms?
No.
Okay. All right, then the chair would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Before we jump into these action items, we do have a full house, so we need to move our administrators so they can get out of here.
I think we can, you guys okay to keep going through? Let's just go through.
All right, we'll start with the spending approval.
All right, we have two items here on the spending approvals, both have been brought up. Oh, I didn't put that in color, darn it. I'm gonna have to have people come, it's a little teaser again, not on purpose. First one was some ESSER spending that we've already discussed is to wall for the floor in the junior high classrooms. I wish I would have put that in color. It was intended to be color. But that is for 19,413. That's the first one. And the second one is the Panther Den gymnasium floor. That is coming from our bond. It's also been approved beforehand. So just to ratify that spending. And that amount came out to 48,672. And so those will need to have a separate motion through it. But again, I can pause for any questions or discussion.
What does that floor hold up in the classroom with the sliding of the chairs? Does it scratch?
I'm not, maybe a little bit, but it holds up pretty well. I know that the same one that's in Miss Allen's class, those are the ones that they've had for, I don't know how long that's been. It's been probably 15 years already. When I talked with Mr. Soderquist about that, he feels that these will have a longer longevity. And so far, we're not seeing like big gouges or anything like that. That was a concern that I had also as I walked in, but for the most part, it holds up pretty well. Good question.
Well, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the spending for item number 1, the junior high flooring, the classroom remodel.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second? Second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. And the chair would entertain a motion to approve the spending for item number 2, the Panther Den floor resurface.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That action passes. Thank you. And next, the route bus purchase.
All right, this one here. I'm going to pull up the action item first, and then I'm going to jump into some of the other items. Right now we're looking to have some bids go out. So during the transportation spot inspection, there was a discussion with the state supervisor about the school bus replacement fund and how the reimbursement to the schools, they follow that depreciation schedule. So basically what happens is when we buy a new school bus, the state reimburses a certain amount for up to a certain number of years. And so we pay full price upfront for the bus, but then it's reimbursed back to the school. And so we are on a schedule. And so additionally, our plant facility funds that we've already passed, we take a portion of that plant facility and earmark it for a new bus. But we haven't purchased one every single year, and there's been a pro and a con to that. So what happens is, I'm just going to pull up the depreciation schedule and what that would look like. And I think the board, you have one there in front of you. And this is from so it has the different buses that we have. And right now we have 22 buses that are on our, I guess, depreciation schedule, but you can see that only to bus 13. Well, the numbers on the left-hand side.
Right, but it skips some numbers.
Skips up because those are the years. So those are years that we've purchased a bus. But some of those years are skipped because we didn't purchase a bus in those years. So you can see that as the buses get older, the depreciation amount goes down. But over the course of the years, we get more funding for them. So you can see then that going back to the action item, by having newer buses on our fleet allows us a couple of different things. It allows our reimbursement rate to go higher and we receive more back, but it also guarantees that our students are on buses that are newer, up-to-date safety upgrades and everything else with that. And so after that discussion, met with Mr. Pincock, and we decided that it would be good for us to make sure that we don't fall off that depreciation schedule and get another bus ordered. Now, there is, surprise, surprise with COVID, shortage in buses, shortage in everything else, and prices that have gone up. In the past 3 buses that we were able to get, those were locked in around 85, is that right, Mr. Pincock? When Mr. Pincock reached out to some bus manufacturers, it estimated ranges from 100,000 to 125, depending on the specs and everything else that come on it. Yeah,
It used to be about 95, didn't they? 95.
85 to 95.
85.
Yeah. So for us to purchase a bus, we need to go out and put a bid out. So at this point, really what we're asking is for the board to approve the transportation department to put out bids to purchase a route bus. Once those bids are in, then again, we would come back to the board and say this was the amount that it was and the spending. So the board has basically oversight 2 ways. One, just to be able to say, yes, go out there and get bids for them. By doing that now will allow us to be able to get our order in. And that's the thing, is these buses aren't just sitting on a lot. They order them and then the factory makes them.
They're probably made on demand.
Yeah. And so, Mr. Pincock, is there anything else for my description that maybe I missed that you would like to add or clarify?
I think you pretty much covered it. Yeah. One thing they said was, there's a real shortage of buses to get this year. And so if you want to get one within the next year to a year and a half, you need to hurry and make the jump to do it, because there's just not a lot available out of, I guess with labor shortage and part
Next
shortage,
year.
it's not a lot of capacity that they have compared to pre-COVID. And the orders are in, they're talking like November of next year to even get a bus if you order one now, because they're so far behind.
Yeah. So as of right now, we are looking to start that process and seeking the permission to do so.
It sounds like we better.
I have a question. Once we review the bids, who decides on which particular bid or bus that we'll purchase?
Well, typically you would take the low bid. But are some different circumstances why you wouldn't want to take the low bid. And I think the board would just make that decision, but decision based on some input from, I guess, myself and why.
Yeah.
If we didn't want the low bus, we wanted this other bus. And if we don't take the low bid, we have to write a letter to the state with our reasons stating why. And I discussed that with our state guy, and they told him, I have preference for a certain model of buses. And it may or may not be the low bid. And part of the reason I like those is because of the parts throughout the years are the same. So there's a lot, like for example, the windshields on the bus, the 04 bus uses the same windshield as the 21 bus. So you can just have a couple of windshields, they fit everything, seat covers, heater motors, all kinds of stuff like that are pretty much universal fit through them all. And we have a dealer close by of this one particular brand that we've been running. And anyway, I expressed that to him and he said, well, that would be a valid reason for you not to have to accept a little bit on the bus. But I mean, ultimately, it would come back to you guys to make that decision based on our input to the way we would or wouldn't want to take the low bus.
Yeah, but we as a board would like your recommendation on, which particular bus
Oh, well,
you would think we should
I like
purchase.
international buses the best.
Mhm.
I've had a real long relationship with the salesmen and the mechanics and stuff. When I have issues that I can't solve myself, I'm able to make a phone call and get the head guy on the phone. He's a good friend. He's not hesitant at all to share any information with me. Our parts are real close by, and dealerships close by. The other two bus dealerships, one of Bluebird is in Utah, and then the other one is over in Boise. And it's just a lot more convenient to have a dealership that's close by and your parts close by. Where our shop only has one bay, and if you have something that breaks down, it's you really try and get it fixed as fast as you can and back out of your shop. Because you always have things coming in and out and your inspections to do and stuff like that. And so you don't really want to be tied up with the bus that's in the shop that you can't move out. So it's really nice to be able to just run to Idaho Falls and 2 hours later, you got the parts in hand to get the job done and move on to the next one. So that's why I like the buses that we've been getting.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Yeah, and we'll definitely, when those bids come back, put a recommendation in from the transportation department, bring that back to the board. But definitely want to get moving on this if that's what the board would like us to do.
We'll sure to entertain a motion to approve the transportation department to put out bids to purchase a new route bus.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we approve the transportation department to put out a bid to purchase a new new route bus.
Is there a second?
Second.
Those in favor?
Okay.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Fuel spending.
All right, so we'll stay with the transportation department. So this action item is similar to others that we've had in the past, this time of year when we start trying to project what our fuel amounts will be here in the district. So our transportation department does have our fuel storage tanks, which has been a real benefit to our school district to be able to buy fuel in bulk quantities for both the summer and the winter fuel mixes. And so we've had the opportunity to lock in some prices and purchase fuel later on. Right now, Mr. Pincock has heard back from Mud Lake Oil with diesel at 3.98 per gallon. That is $1.29 higher than last year. And one of the reasons why we were able to get it that low is because we were able to say, we want to lock it in for 15,000 gallons right now. And so they can guarantee that price. The difficult part is we're like saying, well, should we wait a little bit longer? Those that are speculating oil prices are saying that they're going to go up. We're not going to get the low ones. I know we've got a couple farmers in here. Wives of farmers, it's like, it's so the Mud Lake Oil one is $3.98. Value Wide quoted us $4.65 for the same amount, and Bingham Co-op at that time of this did not return a quote for that. So there's that much amount that we would need for the summer fuel. So be saving for the summer. But additionally, the district will need to purchase 5,000 gallons of dyed fuel. And I need to clarify, Mike, is it an additional 5,000 of number 2, or will we take 5,000 of that to mix in? 5,000 of the
So there's 15,000 of number 2, and that's your summer fuel.
just by itself.
And we have 2 12,000 gallon tanks, so we just try and get them down, so we put in 10,000 and 5,000.
Gotcha.
Because that's your best rate. And then, so the one would be 10,000 of the summer fuel, the other tank would be the other 5,000 of the summer. fuel.
Perfect.
And right now, number 1 is quite expensive, and we really don't have room in our tank, because we just turned on to a full tank here just before Halloween.
Mhm.
We run out on our summer fuel. So we don't know what the price will be of that number 1 when it comes time to take delivery. We have room to take delivery of that, and it's probably going to be the end of February, 1st of March, somewhere in there before we can do that. And so we're kind of at the mercy of the market on the 5,000 of number 1 that we need to put with it to give us a good mix for our buses.
And I do appreciate you with that mix. We've had, I want to knock on wood, we haven't had buses gel up since we started mixing the amounts with this. So
Yeah, we've tried a few different additives and stuff that they tell us will work, but they don't work. So we found that out the hard way when it's going below 0 and have bus bed. And as long as we've done a 50-50 mix of the number 1 and number 2, we've never had issues with our buses. We've had good luck with that. And I've talked to some other districts that buy their fuel from, well, like the South Fremont bus shop. They get their fuel from the same tanks that the county gets out of, but their trucks are all parked inside overnight. And so they never have gelling problems, and the buses always gel. And I think they've gone to putting in some tanks somewhere so they can buy their own fuel and get a good winter mix like we run. And the last time I talked to him, he said he's had really good luck with that, so.
It's
But
not
we don't know what
fighting.
the price of number 1 will be till we have room enough to
yeah.
put it in the tank to make. the purchase.
So it could go up. So really with this action item, again, it's one where we want the school board to be aware of what our process and procedure, especially where this is gonna be such a high purchase. But once that purchases are completed, we'll come in, and inform the board, this is what it was, this is where we're at. It's just basically having dual oversight, making sure that it's.
We get reimbursed for any fuel,
It might be 85% on the. fuel cost.
85%, okay.
But we just have to, we budget initially for it. And so that's the one thing that it does save us where we have that reimbursement. And again, that's why having the yellow buses that have the 85%, amount to that it can be reimbursed. And additionally, Mrs. DeGraw, when we built the budget for this school year, we did drastically increase the amount we were hopefully high enough.
Not all of them.
But we have to have the fuel for the buses, so.
Well, I'd like to say one more thing, since we put those fuel tanks in. So far, we've never gone wrong with when we bought in December compared to the prices, it's gone up, so. We've been really fortunate in that respect, and every year is just a gamble, you never know. You quiz everybody that you can and, make your decision based on their suggestions, but. It's just been crazy times the past 2 years, and so we're hoping this year's another good year that we buy it at this price, and as the year progresses and things change, that we made a good decision on that.
I don't know, is it bad for me to hope that it goes down? I don't know.
Not bad.
You wish it, but I just don't know. But
But yeah, that saved us a lot of money to be able to buy it like that. And it's been a lot more convenient. We used to have to go down to Ike's every day and fuel all of our buses out of the truck pumps in the back there. Sometimes you go down there, you can stand there for half an hour with semis in front of you. Whatever, so this has been really nice to have that system.
Great, thank you, Mr. Pincock. The chair would entertain a motion to approve the transportation department to purchase fuel by contracting with the companies with the lowest bids.
Madam Chair, I so move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, self-directed learners.
I do have one more thing I mentioned.
Sure.
Jody, a while back, put in grants to get internet hotspots on our buses. And that equipment arrived a few weeks back. And
Okay.
guys actually started installing those today, and I emailed Mr. Williams a picture of the first bus with the antennas on top. I don't know if you could access that right now or not, but anyway.
yeah,
There's two different carriers, it's AT&T and Verizon. And the antennas are about this big around and about this tall. And they're sitting on each front corner of the bus, so they look like little bug ears or something. So, that's gonna take them about 3 days to get that on, they should have finished up by Friday. So I guess as these buses go out, people are gonna look at those, what the heck are those? Then that's what they are, they're the hotspot antennas for the Wi-Fi in the bus.
yeah, and that came through a grant.
And we got enough to do our 8 route buses plus 2 extra ones, so we'll have that in each one of our travel buses and probably 1 substitute bus.
Cool. Oh, thank you.
Okay, self-directed learners.
All right. So the Idaho Code 33512D created a designation for self-directed learner option for parents and their students. And so our policy 2470, one that we've developed since September, will address this statute. I did also put the draft on here. Oh, that's the wrong one. Hold on. Right there. So we're just to the point where we're seeking the board to vote on this policy, and we'll put it in. This will allow the district to also as I work with administration to create procedures for this, procedures aren't finalized, but it just designates that West Jefferson School District will recognize self-directed learners as a designation for students in our district.
I have one question. Didn't ask last time, I forgot. Somebody's gonna be, some teacher will be, or have we determined how we're gonna do that? Will you have
Well-
a teacher in charge of that student, or how will they, who will they go?
What
to?
will have to happen is our counselors will have to have a meeting with the parent, student, counselor, and the teachers involved with that. And so because we can't just say this teacher or this teacher, it's the group of people. Yeah, a group of people will do that.
Okay, because it sounds like there's a teacher that's supervising them.
And so the supervision really comes back to the parents on this. Once the plan is in place, it's gonna be the parents' responsibility to make sure that the students are fulfilling.
Well, it
Those
says here in
obligations.
this paragraph, the student's self-directed learning status may be terminated if the teacher supervising the student's self-directed learning determines that the student is failing to meet the requirements.
Yeah,
So that sounds like they have a,
Per subject.
teacher. I think we could probably take teacher and turn that to team.
Teacher overseeing it.
Isn't it the one that's giving them the assignments?
Yeah.
And virtually,
Right,
that's their
so if it's a
teacher.
virtual class, then they have an idea.
So teacher would stay. Teacher would be accurate.
And when they're taking an IDLA class, the teacher is meeting with both the student, the parent, and our IDLA coordinator on site.
I'm sure we need to fine tune
okay,
different things as we go. I know that this policy as written does allow us to at least just start that.
okay.
And then the administration will sit down, we'll start looking at procedure 2470. Bring that, and we'll make sure the board is aware of what that procedure is.
Okay.
But that is, I can see what you're saying, though,
Yeah.
whether that word should say teacher supervising the students. It's not the teacher who organizes it,
It
it's the
sounds like that.
the
There's
team.
one teacher that they go to for this whole thing. That's
Yeah.
the way it's written. So I just thought maybe a little revision, but
We could even, maybe supervising is not the right word either.
maybe it isn't.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Perfect, thank you for that.
That's a good question. Okay, if there's no further discussion, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the self-directed learner policy 2470.
Madam Chair, I still move.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Any further discussion? Those in favor? Any opposed? That motion passes. Thank you. Okay, discussion items. First up, elementary school progress update. Mr.
Yeah,
Johnson.
Madam Chair, so yes, I've asked Mr. Johnson to come and report. Yeah, Mr. Johnson, come on up.
Hold all this, make sure I have a microphone. While this is getting set up, I just want to thank all of you for all that you do. And I know as we go through this, looking at the progress of our students and what they're doing, it takes a team. It takes a strong board. It takes needs, special education, teachers, our capacity builders. It takes everybody. So I just want to thank everybody for this. And then, I don't know the best way to.
You just tell me and I'll scroll it up. Do you want to move that microphone up just a little bit? Just take a few minutes or not a few minutes, but just a second.
Let's stay up there.
Yeah, that should work.
Okay, is that better?
That's better.
All right.
Yeah,
So if you want to scroll down, so first off, I'm just going to start off in kindergarten. This is our ELA in kindergarten, kind of what they're working on. As you can see here, it says 14 out of 46 students. This is because this is just their most recent. Some of the students are still taking their assessment. Mrs. Taylor was working on it with them, but this just quickly shows you an overview of what they're working on. So this has their uppercase and lowercase letters. That's just letter recognition. And then they also have their sounds and they're doing really well and they're rhyming as well. So this is just kind of a quick overview. The purpose of me showing you this is that the kindergarten as far as iStation goes, they only put it in iStation scores every so often when the state requires it. But they're using what's called the ESGI, and this is the program that they're using to kind of drive their instruction to see what the students need. So we want to go down to the next one. This is also in their math. They've got their patterns down, it looks like. They're still working on their number recognition as well as their shapes currently. Again, they're still assessing right now, but as we go to the next slide, we'll see some more of their iStation scores in August. So this is part of our literacy plan. I just quickly put together our trimester 1 goals, what they were, where we're at currently, and at the end of the year, where our goals, kind of where we're going. So if you look at kindergarten, for example, they've only taken it once, they'll take it again in December is their next pro. But already in August, they were above. So that's awesome. That shows that our preschool is doing an amazing job. They're coming ready to learn their letters and sounds. So in August, they had 62% of their students pass 95% of their scores, or of that goal. So then.
Mr. Johnson, is this iStation
This
then?
is iStation, yeah.
Okay.
This is the iStation at tier 1, so that's the percentage of students at tier 1. And that's where we want them at. So in August, they were at 62%. Our end of the year goal is still 75, so they're still working towards that. In first grade, our end of trimester goal was 60%. As of October, that's the last time they took it. Our first graders haven't taken it yet in November. They take it towards the end. So they're at 59%. So they're right on track where we want them to be. At the end of the year, we want them at 80% though. Our second grade already met their end of trimester goal, if you will. In November, they were at 58%. And trimester 1, we wanted them at 55%. So same with third grade. Our third grade teachers are doing a fabulous job. They were in October at 68%. Same thing, they haven't taken their November assessment yet. But our trimester goal is 55%, and of the year 70%. So, and as we go through the next ones, you'll just kind of see where their overall tiers are. These are their average scores. So this is our average 4th grade reading score. So the majority of them are in tier 2, which is basically kind of grade level, if you will. But they're continuing to increase, this is what we like to see. So let me just keep scrolling through these. This is our 3rd grade. They're above average. They're all in tier 1 of the majority of the students. This isn't all of the students, obviously, but this is their average scores. And so again, they're above, but continuing to increase as well. And same in 2nd grade, we're seeing scores continuing to increase, but still stay above. This is our 1st grade. So our 1st grade, they're on the upper range, if you will, of tier 2, but also increasing towards that tier 1. And then this is math. So math is a little bit lower. There's things that we're continuing to work on. As far as iStation goes, some of the feedback that I'm getting back from teachers and as they're learning to really look at the data, we spend a lot of time looking at the data and they break it apart into different subjects. They're realizing what they need to teach and how to change their curriculum. For example, I know in 3rd grade and 4th grade, they on the iStation, they do cover geometry, but yet the teachers don't usually cover that till the end of the year. And so they're making those adjustments now.
And because of that, that could be one element that brings the scores down.
Because they haven't taught it yet.
And so I think it's really important to, as we look at these, whether it's iStation, whether it's 95% data or the what's the kindergarten one again? ESGI. These are just tools that track their progress. And then it's during the data meetings where Mr. Johnson sits down with the teachers and we're not saying, hey, score this, score this. It's the conversation is, where are they at? What are they missing? And how can we improve that? And so that's really, this is all this data. That's what the whole intention of this is, not to be like, hey, our 3rd grade is not doing very good in math. Look at this. It's no, we recognize the things that are impacting it. And these are the things that we are now going to do to help them.
So you're actually changing the curriculum from when you teach it to fit.
Yeah, we're using the same curriculum, but maybe not the same.
Scope and
order,
sequence.
Scope and sequence that the curriculum provides us, because we're teaching priority standards.
Yeah,
And especially as my teachers have learned more about the priority standards and learned, okay, what are we really need to focus on? They're realizing that every year you kind of have to change your priorities a little bit, because one class came in really strong, already knowing multiplication, for example, the other class may not, and so they have to adjust those, and so, which has been helpful.
yeah.
So, and it's important to also note that there's a reason why we look at so many different data points. I love the iStation for parts of it, and there's other parts that I don't love. And so it's fun to sit down with the teachers and look at all the different data and realize, okay, where are our holes? What can we do to help them? So this is our second grade math. Again, they came in really low, but we're continuing in that upward hill with the math, especially as the teachers are really looking at the data and looking at specifically what they need to teach and how to help the students continue to progress. Our first grade is a good example of this. So right here that we had the majority of the average was down here in tier 2, but now all of the average is up in the green. So which is what we like to see. They're all in the tier 1. Kindergarten math, same thing. She in our kindergarten classes, they don't do the pro, so this isn't the most accurate, if you will, because they do the ESGI. I do have one kindergarten teacher that likes the iStation more than another one, and so, for example, the August is where they were at, where everybody took it. But if you actually go and look at this data, the September and October probes are just one class. So this isn't the most accurate. That's why we also look at the ESGI, because this is just so many students that took it, because it's not required till December is when they'll be in. As far as 4th, 5th, and 6th grade classes, their tool that they're using is more of the ISAT. So they've been taking the SECA, they've been looking at that information, trying to compare and look at what that data looks like, and they've been working with our capacity builders as well, who have been very helpful with that, and learning how to read the data, but also how to guide their instruction. So if you look at this, our 4th grade, for example, if you want to go to the next one, actually, I have a.
Is it zoomed in on it?
4th grade.
Okay,
So this is our 4th grade ELA, for example, compared to the state as a district, and this was just their first time, they just took it, they've only taken it once. But as you can tell, we're pretty close to where the state is at. We are a little bit behind, but we're pretty close. So. And so if you're looking at the breakdown of these, if you want to go.
which one was this? This was ELA, wasn't
So
it?
yes, this is ELA. So if you look, or if you want to scroll up just a tiny or down, either way.
Oh, go back this other way.
Yeah, just a tiny bit, sorry. So if you look, the red is below, the orange color is near, and then green is at, and then blue is above. Just so you can see the key there.
And with the SECAs, this is one thing that we've talked about in other meetings, that the ELA in the junior high has been using this. And this is where, again, it's a test, and then we identify where it's at. It's not just to focus on what was your score. It's then identifying which standards are low. And so we take this and we say, okay, this is a standard that we really need to address. And then when we take the SECA later on, we can say, how are we progressing? How are we doing on it? So at least it's not just a hope and a wish saying, oh, I'm doing this. I hope they're going to be okay. And it will give us a better idea when we do take the ISAT in the spring, where they'll come out, right, Mr. Johnson?
Yes, and so my 4th grade teachers and my 5th, 6th grade teachers, they're getting more familiar with this. This is something that they're not fully used to, but they're getting more familiar on what this data looks like and looking at it and really driving their instruction. I know it's been fun meeting with one of my teachers. She sat down and she was like pulling out questions, specific questions that the students got wrong. And it was like, okay, I need to address this specific question, if you will. So if you want to keep going, this has a better depiction of the 6th and 5th graders. So as you can tell, The hard part about comparing these ones that I'm noticing is not all the students have taken their second one. If you look at the pre-test by the sixth graders, it's on the second line there. You
Right there.
had 35 students that took it, but then if you look above and below where above, you had 14 students take it, so it looks like not all of them have finished it yet, so we're still in that realm, but we're still watching these numbers, so it just kind of helps us see where we're at. Again, same thing with math. Our fourth grade took their first one, and then our fifth and sixth grade have taken a couple now. And so we're just continuing to watch those. The teachers are getting more familiar with how to monitor that. And then this is our fourth grade math compared to the state. So again, if you look at this below level, our district was at 56%, the state was at 45%. But all the rest are pretty close. We're still behind, but we're working on it. So. And then these are our 95% scores. Again, 95% is our reading intervention. I sat through a bunch of IEPs where parents are just amazed at how much they want to read. I actually met with Joe Coleman this morning, told me a story about they were doing a math lesson and she could tell their kids were just kind of getting tired of the math lesson. And so she said, you know what, we need to take a break. And this kindergartner went up to me and goes, good, I'm exhausted. He said, I just want to read a book. And I love that he wanted to read and take a break from math, if you will, but they're doing amazing things. So the letter names and sounds up as of August and September, then we had 12%, and now we're moved up to 38% of the students that have passed that at 90% accuracy. For sounds, we were at 6%, and now we're at 24%. Our first grade, we had 0 past skill 5. Those are just the basic skills, if you will. That's where they learn to blend sounds and blend words together. A lot of that is because at the very beginning of the year, we go back to, it's called the PASI, but basically the PASI part of 95% teaches them the beginning and end sounds. And so it breaks, and some students need that vocab. Okay, what does the beginning mean? Where is the beginning of the word? And so we go back and address that first in first grade, and then we start going. In second grade, we were at 30%, and now we're up to 42% that are past skill 7. In third grade, we were at 27%, but up to 47% now past skill 9. In fourth grade, where we really would like them tested out of 95%, we were at 44%, and now we're at 50%. And fifth and sixth grade, we were at 44% as well, and now we're up to 59% of the students that are tested out of 95% intervention. So lots of good things going on, but like I said, it takes the whole team. So
That third grade on everything, they just are knocking it out of the park. Good for them.
Couple of observations that I've had is, as we're working with both the elementary teachers, working with data, looking at our district plan and our goals that we have as a district, focusing on standards. These items that Mr. Johnson is showing us, again, it's not just a test score, it's what are we doing with this data? And how do we teach it? And it's not just the elementary, as I've talked with our math department, the high school, they're doing the same thing with these SECA scores. I know Mr. Davis is working with his other teachers on how do we be more strategic in focusing on the things that they need to really make sure that we are teaching the most essential standards to our students. So I just like to thank Mr. Johnson, and I know I have Mr. Davis here, just all their hard work with organizing this, and the teachers that are in the classroom, they're buying into what we're asking them to do. And, you know, I think we'll start to see the snowball.
They really are focusing, and I think you can tell they're doing well.
Super. Okay.
Other questions for Mr. Johnson?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next, we are exiting CSI up status.
So I've asked Kay Moore, who's a capacity builder for the CSI up. And we have Anne, were you coming to talk too? I don't, yeah. I think-
Go first, if that's okay, and we promise not to take too long.
Well, Anne and Kay have been here working with us in the district. And I did put the teaser into the superintendent report that we are exiting. And these two wanted to come and just share their experience working with our school. And I don't know what else you're gonna say, so I guess I wasn't expecting.
Family issues, but I was able to make it.
Glad you're here.
So, Madam Chair and Board of Trustees and Mr. Williams, I just want to say how grateful I am and honored and privileged to stand before you today and congratulate our middle school, junior high, I guess, on their successes over the last 4 years. All schools go through a school improvement process, and you've probably noticed that through the years, and that's where they focus on priorities, identify needs, and identify priorities and plans. And SJ is no different. In 2018, let me back up a minute. Every 4 because of COVID years, the federal programs at the State Department takes a deep dive into the state data using the ISAT, this one measure, that they look at, and they identify schools that have high needs. And so in 2018, I don't think you were here, Mr.
I was
Williams,
not.
but anyway, the school was identified in the bottom 5% of the state in ELA and math. And I know that was probably devastating news. We weren't here as capacity builders at that time, but in all those other schools we worked at, it was heartbreaking. And I just want to say, we've been at West J, 2 years, 2 years. And just to see the growth and the success and the dedication and commitment of the teachers and the administration has been absolutely amazing. I mean, they not only were they devastated, but they said, we can beat this. And they set this growth mindset that was just above and beyond in that middle school, junior high. And boy, they took it to heart. And I want to congratulate them and you and it's not just the work of one, like Kyle said. I mean, Mr. Johnson was part of the process. Mr. Davis is part of the process. Mr. Williams, Mr. Haroldson, and that whole middle school and junior high team. I mean, it was grades 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we worked with a lot of teachers, and it wasn't easy work because you had to look at the brutal facts, and that hurts sometimes. And then you have to set forth a plan of how am I going to improve this and come together as a district and say, what do we need to do so that we don't end up there again or that we continue to do our best. So with that, congratulations. Congratulations. We want to say how fun it's been to work with the team, the administration. It's just been amazing. Here at West J, what I love most is that through this whole process, I've noticed that the conversations, everything that comes, all their communications, the focus, always put students first. You don't see that in every school, and that makes me proud of the school district to see that every decision, students are first. It doesn't matter if it's in the classroom, in the hallways, at sporting events, in the superintendent's office, or in the principal's office. Students are first. They're number one. And through this process, our teachers have had to look at policies and teaching practices and curriculum and interventions and behavior and really prioritize what was their greatest need and do a lot of change. And they have been amazing. They were able to say no to a lot of things that were coming around and say, yes, this is where we've got to put the time. And so areas of growth, I think we've heard a little bit about that, and you have heard about that in the past. But for me, as I look back over the 2 1/4 years, I guess, I've been here, I think they've learned to narrow their focus and focus on what's right. They've implemented a standards-based system so that kids really are learning, the students are really learning what they need to know to be successful in life and their next career. The use of data, that's amazing. When Kay and I first walked in here, we were really nervous because it wasn't, I used data, but not like Kyle showed you today. I mean, and the teachers now are starting to use data. And I've been working with the high school teachers, and I worked with a math teacher a couple of weeks ago, and I just went on for her. And Mr. Williams was telling me a story, and it just gave me goosebumps to think how much they have changed. And so I commend them for that effort. PLCs, they're really focused. Again, it's students first. Shared leadership, everybody taking some responsibility in the leadership of the school or the grade level. Team meetings, and that was something that we didn't always see. Those are regular now. And the strong focus in PD based on their priorities, PBIS, and then the tutoring. I mean, that just shows you they're student focused. So with that, it's been an honor and a privilege, and I'm sad to leave.
We're gonna-
Numbers on speed dial.
Yeah, we have your numbers
And
still.
we have a school now down the road, down the freeway, so we'll be able to swing in here once in a while and still, help and assist as we can. And I just wish you guys all the best and continue loving and supporting your students.
All right.
Can I make a comment? You know, I was here when we had the failing year.
We were all devastated.
At first, I was embarrassed, and then as time went on, I saw the good that the money did, and then we initiated some new things, the board, and made lots of changes. And I've seen it just steadily improve, so I'm looking at it as kind of a blessing. I'm not sure where we would have been if you didn't come till a couple of years, but it really, I think it got us back on track where we needed to be.
Absolutely.
So,
And even in probably one of the most difficult times in education during COVID,
mhm.
and to stay afloat and to be strong leaders and have good curriculum, good intervention, and that student focus. That's amazing. So you're right.
Mhm.
And it is kind of a blessing and a curse. And I'd like to
Right.
say more of a blessing than a curse, but when you first get that title, you think, oh, I'm cursed. But at the end, I look back and say, what a blessing for this district.
I think so too.
So, thank you. Any questions? Any other?
Yes, I have one comment. When COVID started, there was a lot of states and school boards that kept their kids out of school.
Yeah.
And we, as an administration, decided we was gonna do everything we could to keep the kids in school. And I think it really helped the kids, and they're better for it now. A lot of kids for all around the country are behind.
Absolutely. And when that COVID year, when West J's scores soared compared to the rest of the state, I'm like, they rocked it because they knew the secret, the magic. Get to school. So,
Yep, we did it for the kids.
yeah, congratulations. Good news.
Thanks, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, I want to also, I can't say a whole lot more than Amy said. She said a lot and she was pretty good at it. I should never let her go first. So, I'll make mine much shorter. Madam Chair, school board members, Mr. Williams, and the audience, including the two administrators. I do agree with what Ann said, and in particular, what I want to focus on first is Mr. Williams said he asked us to come speak. So I have to correct him. This may be my last time. I asked him if we can come speak because we wanted to share with you the good work that has gone on here. And I know sometimes as a school board, people sign up or want to get on the agenda and want to come speak. It's like being the principal. You don't always see the good things, but somebody's always willing to tell you the bad things or the things they don't like. So these are the things that we liked here today. And I think that, it was said, I think the fact that the board, the district, the superintendent, your building administrators, you all focused on a shared vision of student success and what needed to happen here. I think Ann has covered that really well. Mr. Johnson said something about capacity builders have been very helpful. We hope so. But it was fun for us to work here, to work with the administrators, teachers who wanted to learn, who wanted to improve. Not that they weren't good teachers, but just a different way of focusing instruction, different curriculum maybe. So everything that's been going on here for the 2 years we've been here, including they let us start at the beginning of this year, but now we're saying goodbye. You're going in the right direction. You've seen that with your assessment scores. The morale, I think, is great myself. I mean, I'm an outside visitor coming in. And as a board, you guys have just been so supportive of the vision that your administration has provided here. And that's a very important thing that needs to happen. You don't always see that. And if, like Ann said, the focus on the students, what's best for students here. So I can't say enough other than we'll miss coming here. And like Ann said, you'll probably see us again, especially now that there's a restaurant in town that we can kind of stop in and eat on our way, because we've heard the further north we go, we have to go all the way to Montana, and we're not certified in Montana to do our work. So thank you for having us, and we've really enjoyed our experience here. The only closing thing is this whole program, the IBC project, and it's called Idaho Building Capacity, is a project of the State Department of Education. It's been going on, and I joined it in its 3rd year. So this is its 15th year that they have had the capacity building program. And I hope the state's whole goal is to provide different ways of support, because the State Department's over in Boise. We know where West Ada is, and it's further away from us here in eastern Idaho. And so the goal of the State Department, the goal of capacity builders, is to come in and help schools, superintendents, administrators, district board, however we can. So we appreciate your willingness to work with us this last couple of years. Thank you.
Okay. Levy renewal.
Before we move on that, I just want to say thank you, Anna Kay, if that's okay. Oh. Worked with, especially Kay, I've worked with her since Madison, so I'm like,
Yeah, it's taken me this long.
like, but they're close, they can still drop in and
Right.
keep me on my toes, so appreciate all that they've done. And so just as a point of discussion, policy 2210, this is our school closure,
Jump up one.
oh.
Levy renewal.
levy renewal. Just an update, still waiting to hear back from Zion still on where we're at. Anticipated to have that discussion, to have a levy renewal, ready to go by March.
So
That's all. Nothing new on that one. Sorry about that, Madam Chair. I'm jumping to 5.4.
Who's hungry?
Policy 2212, school closure. Do have a draft policy, with a suggestion that I want to bring to the board. So the school closure, policy that we do have includes the 2-hour delayed start, early release from school, entire cancellation, has factors to consider. Again, these are just factors. It's not a hard line of when, but now that we are on a 4-day calendar, the number of instructional hours, extra hours that we have built into the calendar are fewer. So before we had about 5 or 6 days of extra instructional hours built in. And now for a couple of grade levels, that's down to 3 days. And so I wanted to have, and I did put this in the yellow here. This is the new section of the draft. That if an emergency closure and again, this was a rough draft, so if there's any typos or anything like
Is
that,
this a brand new policy then? It's
No.
already written, just,
no, so I
Okay, so-
took the regular policy that we had
okay.
and I added in this yellow part.
Carrie, can I get a copy of this?
Yeah, we'll get that. So if the closure, if our closures exceed the amount per calendar year, again, this was, and then there's a deficit of student instructional hours, then we need to be ready for this, because right now our policy says, and I'm gonna go up here into a non-yellow one. Our policy says that, if schools are closed for weather or other emergencies, teachers are not expected to report to duty unless directed so. Teachers do not need to submit an absence form. So basically, they're paid for that day. The same thing with classified employees. That employees will be compensated for the respective scheduled hours for that day. Now, what will happen? I guess here's the question that we have to address. What will happen is, what if we do exceed that time and it's going to be required that teachers and classified staff need to come in on that Friday, or we change something to be able to meet the required hours? We don't want to pay them for the time off and then pay them again for that Friday
No.
if they come in.
No.
And I think we're all on the same page. I just need to write it.
But
In a
didn't
way.
you- when I suggested we use Fridays to make these up, didn't you tell me that would be too hard because people have jobs and,
We would have to,
yeah.
because really it might be hard, but it's one of those things they're gonna have to make a change in theirs because we cannot go below the instructional
This is
hours.
their main employer.
Yes. But there's 3 different ways that we could increase instructional time if needed. One would be adjusting daily schedules. So maybe we have a shorter recess break or something like that. And then over time, that's one way to do it. It's not the best way. I'm just saying it is one way that it could be done. Another one would be to have school on a non-scheduled school day, which would be a Friday. And say on this Friday, we're still having school. And then on another one would be to extend the calendar year. So we would come back after Memorial Day. So those are all different ways to do that. But what we don't have is we need to have something in place to say, and I think that in the event that instructional hours need to be made up, this is the last sentence, employees will not be compensated for that emergency closure and will receive that compensation during the makeup day required to meet the instructional hours.
Can you clarify something for me?
Yeah.
On a day that is not needed, I guess, how do I want to ask this?
So buses don't go out, paraprofessionals don't come in to teach, school staff or the lunch service, they don't come. What we've done in the past and what other districts I've been at, they just hold that employee whole and they pay them for that. There are some districts that if you're an hourly employee, if you don't come in, you don't get paid. There are some districts that do that. We don't do that now, and I'm not suggesting we do unless that's what the board wants to. But I'm just giving you guys the information. And so what we don't want them to think, so let's say that we've used up all 3 of the days that we can use. And
We've already used one.
so we have a certain amount of hours before we get to our extra ones. So the state gives us a certain amount.
So we haven't used one yet.
Yeah, and it's approximately 3.
Okay.
It's approximately 3.
So on the days,
Because it's based off of hours, not off of days. And so you look at the hours that it's there. And so it's not, we just have to be ready for that because it could happen this year. It could happen where we have to use that. And what I'll do is I'll look at the hours and break it down and see where we're at.
so on a day, say we have a snow day. You're saying people are being compensated for that right now,
Yes.
but then
Some
say
of,
we have to come that Friday,
Mhm.
they would just be
It's straight,
held whole.
correct.
They wouldn't get that time plus overtime.
That's what I'm trying to put in there. So avoid, we don't want to have to say, we just want to make sure it's clear to the employees. that we are gonna hold you whole as much as possible. But we don't have it in the budget to go, hey, you get paid for this day for not coming in, and now you're getting paid on the day that you have to come in.
There we go.
Yeah.
I just don't know how to write
You get paid for
that.
the day that you actually work.
On that,
After we've used up our.
After.
allotted day.
after
Yes.
the allotted days, so they have it up to the allotted days on that.
Is there anybody that comes in on a day like that? The custodians?
So there are times where the custodians are in here early enough, and according to policy, once their jobs are completed and that their supervisors can say, you can go. Now, all employees could be asked to come in, including teachers. That's the one thing is in policy. If we felt like we needed to bring teachers in, we could say, please come here on this day. And that's something that we could do still. I think one thing that I do have to occasionally remind staff members is that these emergency closures are for students to be protected first. It's like, I know, like, I don't want to sound hard, like I'm harsh to the adults, but really this is the reason why we have this built in is because our job is to bring students to school. And if it's unsafe for students, then that's when we don't have them. And so I do get that there are going to be times where employees, because we have geographically, people coming from different directions, sometimes it could be really bad up north and people can't make it this way, but our teachers from the south can. It's just, it's like any other place. That's what we're hoping to do. I hope that's clear.
Is there anything in the master agreement that would say, well, we missed one of our first 4 days, so now we need you to come in on Friday? Is that gonna get sticky?
It's not on the master agreement that I know of. But
They don't get to pick the schedule.
the Idaho code, Idaho law says you have to have a certain, like, we are governed by instructional hours. And if we drop below instructional hours, we are governed to have to figure out how to make that happen. And so the master agreement does not let them choose. Now, I guess they could come back and say, well, that was my day off. And so they still could use their sick days. If they're sick, they could still use a personal day, and we might see some of that, but the instructional hours would be then counted towards us meeting the requirements in Idaho code for instructional hours. Okay, but if you guys could look over this, and if there's a different way we could write it, I think I've been able to hopefully articulate the need for that, but that would be the only change within this policy would be this revision.
Super. Okay, last thing, superintendent evaluation is coming up.
Well, if you could just go back and rewatch the YouTube live. Kay and Ann, I feel like I should probably pay them on that. That was really kind words that they said with our district, but yeah, that will be next month. We'll hold that during executive session. That will allow me to step out and let you guys complete the evaluation and move forward.
Looking forward to it.
So, well, thank you.
All right. Well, no further business on the agenda. So before we open for a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I move that we adjourn this meeting.
There's a second. Those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you. Carry that time.
You did a little.